Good morning, moms of Master Books. Today we are talking about the sometimes confusing language of math. Maybe you haven't really thought about this very much. I know I didn't until something happened a number of years ago that really changed the way I thought about this. So maybe I'll tell you that story. I will tell you that story a little bit later. But first off, let's talk about what do I mean by the language of math. Well, I do mean what you probably think I mean by just the words and the terms that we use when we're teaching our kids math concepts, but even more than that, I am actually talking today about the words our kids hear when we are speaking to them and teaching them math. Sometimes kids hear things in a different way, and I think you guys know what I mean when I say that. So yes, I'm talking about the words that we say to our kids and the words that they're hearing, but I'm also talking about the words that our kids need to learn to be able to express their understanding. Okay. I've always said that you cannot educate a child who has their mouth closed. So it's kind of like trying to fill a jug that has a lid on it, right? Not that our kids are jugs, but they need to have their mouths open and being able to express themselves to actually learn something. So the comprehension of the words and the terms that go with math, the math language, I have learned through the years that just the misunderstanding of those concepts, either on our part, but mostly on our kids' part, a lot of times that causes hangups and breakdowns in our ability to teach math and their ability to learn. So that's what I want to talk about today. We tend to focus a lot on the teaching of concepts in math. At least I know I do. When I'm teaching math, my brain goes into math mode. Unless I'm careful, I'm concentrating on the concepts, as in the steps to reach the answer. But the concepts have to be expressed in a way that our children are learning the concepts and the language. And sometimes we take it for granted that they understand what we're talking about and the expressions that we're using. But I know from experience that kids, especially when they're first starting out, like kindergarten to even third or fourth grade, kids are so concrete. They take everything very, very literally. And a lot of times that doesn't really work well when they're learning abstract concepts that has an abstract language to it. I'll give you an example. This was years ago, when my youngest daughter, who is now 16 and an 11th grader, when she was probably 5 years old, I decided to teach her place value. So I set up the place value village and I started working with her and showing her. And she was very smart. So I thought, oh, she's getting it. She's getting it. I'm so excited. She's really getting it. And she was just like, oh, yeah, let's do this. And she's just monkeying me and doing everything I'm doing. And I'm like, yes, we did it. Well, a couple hours later, she was playing around with the place value village, and she's teaching her doll place value. And I'm listening to her and I'm thinking, I guess she really didn't understand, because she was saying things like, Barbie, if I put this in this house, it's much more valuable, and all the leftovers have to go over in this house. And I thought, you know what? She really did not understand what I was trying to say. I think I need to back up and start building a foundation of the terms that I'm using for her to understand this. So we backed up and we started doing just more games of this group has more and this group has less, and understanding the meaning of those terms. Those terms are foundational in the understanding of concepts like place value. That's why Math K is so exciting for me, because the Math K, it might seem too simple, but it actually helps the child to develop not only the concepts needed for place value and all of the concepts taught in Math 1 and up, but it helps the child to develop the language part of it, and for them their mind to understand, okay, when my mom says, what group has more, I actually need to look at it and understand that this group, I can see with my eyes that this group has more. And we can't take for granted that our kids actually understand that. So those are those foundational concepts. So there are many concepts that have funny ways of explaining them in math, if you think about it. Last week I talked about skip counting. Do your kids know what skip counting means? Do they understand that that is linked to multiplication? We can't take for granted that they understand the language of the math that we're speaking to them, because math is its own language. One of my kids used to think that skip counting was what you did when you played hopscotch. Well, that makes sense, right? Because that's, you jump, you hop, you skip, and you count. But it was really crushing to her that she didn't really understand it. So I guess my big thing would be, before I tell you my story of how I had my eyes open to the need for really focusing on the language and the expression of math right along with the concepts. And I want to tell you that story, but I think I really want to challenge us all to stop, just stop in our lives sometimes and look at life, look at learning, look at each topic and subject that we're teaching our children, to look at it through their eyes, to remember what it was like that anything past our front walk was the big wide world, and our trip to grandma's was so long. It's really important that we can stop and see things through their eyes once in a while. I think it would give us a lot more empathy and understanding, and patience, honestly, in our teaching. So my story about how I came to this conclusion about the language of math. It was about a dozen years ago. My parents were staying with us for a few months. My dad and I were very close. He passed away about 10 years ago. And he liked to sit kind of in the corner and just watch as we homeschooled. And at first it made me kind of nervous because, he was really smart, and, I was just like, ugh. But I got used to it, and I actually started looking to him to see his reaction and how I was teaching my kids. And one day, he'd been here for probably a month and a half. And I went over and sat down next to him, and we started chatting about homeschooling. And I always put a lot of stock into what my dad said. He was a very wise man. And so I told him, he asked me how it was going, and I started talking, and I was telling him about how proud I was of myself that I had accomplished, this and this and this. And then I switched gears to how frustrated I am with this child because of this and this and this. And him, in his usual manner, he just listened. He's nodding, and he was quiet for a few minutes, and then he said, "Ange, can I tell you the truth?" And I'm like, "Oh boy, yeah, you can tell me the truth." And he said, Ange, this is my observation. Guys, I really hope I can talk about my dad without crying today. This is ridiculous. Okay. He said, Ange, I have made the observation that you have turned your homeschooling into your own show and tell. Your homeschooling is about you, and it shouldn't be. Your homeschooling should be about your kids. It shouldn't be about your accomplishments, because God is the one helping you through this. This should be about your kids and what they're learning. He said, I've been here for almost 6 weeks, and I have not seen you give them a chance to express and to show what they are learning. This is all about you. And honestly, I kind of felt like I'd been slapped, because God knew, and my dad knew, that my intentions towards my kids were completely honest and pure, in the sense of I wanted what was best for them. We all do. But he asked me the question that really set me back on my heels, and it completely shifted my view of what I was doing, my view of success, my view of education, my view of homeschooling, my view of everything. It shifted that one day when he asked me. He said, when was the last time you looked through the world through your kids' eyes? When was the last time? And I stopped and I thought, you know what? I don't know if I ever have. And if you guys have been using math lessons for living education, you are familiar with my show and tell days. This is where those projects and assignments, that's what this is rooted in, is my dad's question, when was the last time you gave them the chance and the opportunity to show what they have accomplished? This is their education. So I started working that into our school days and into our lives. And it helped me to realize that my kids needed my help in learning the expression of what they were learning, to be able to express what they were learning. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch Randy's last video about teaching our kids to be creative thinkers, you need to watch that. You need to watch it, because we as homeschool moms, we can turn this whole thing into a scrapbook of years of our success. We taught them, we brought them up to level, we got them to graduation, we taught them this, we taught them that. And yes, we are responsible for that, but it is their victory, it is their learning experience that we're doing this for. It's not about us, it's about them. It's about us raising them. So that is what the expression, the language of math, to me, that's what it means. Please go watch that video that Randy did about helping our kids to be creative thinkers, because we tend to focus on the what. The what is this? The when is this? When did it happen? What is happening? When is happening? Who is doing it? We focus on those things that we can grade and we can tick off our list. We taught our kids what addition is and what subtraction is and what multiplication is and what fractions are and what decimals are and what percents are and what the connection is. All those things are important. It is more important for our kids to know why and how. In the real world, how does this apply? So I encourage all of us, and I'm talking to myself too, because I still have one in school. So important for us to focus on that why and that how. That's That's that divergent thinking, that the ability to think broadly, the ability to think, not just do. Okay? So does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. It made sense when I was thinking through it to talk about. So I need to keep track of the time here, but I don't want to spend too much time, but I want to encourage all of you to look at your homeschools and to be really, really honest about is this about me, or is this about my kids? Am I using this as a showcase for my own accomplishment, or am I giving my kids the tools to express themselves and to express what they're learning? And when we do that, that is when we're successful. Checking off lists does not make us a success. Having our kids monkey back to us does not make us success. Graduating a kid from high school does not make us a success. Is that child able and willing to express themselves and to learn to how to reach the world around them through the language expression. So I'm gonna close in prayer, and if you guys have any questions about what I've said, please drop them in the comments, and I will hop back on here and answer them throughout the day. I was going to say also that I put a large amount of these thoughts into the Math Lessons for Living Education Teacher's Companion, which, by the way, is in its last editing process, and it will be going in and be available very soon in print. So super excited about that. But let me close in prayer, and then you guys, sorry, you guys can get on with your day and your week and just have a really, really blessed day. Okay? Lord Jesus, thank you for this opportunity to educate and to homeschool our kids. Lord, help us to focus on what is eternal, Lord, and to focus on our kids and bringing you glory, Lord. This is not about us. We can't do this on our own. We know that. We know it in our heads, Lord. Help us to operate from that place of humility and openness before you. Lord, you know our kids. You know every single day of their lives. You know the plan you have for them. And Lord, our plans are good for us. We want the best for them. We want them to grow up to be the very best them they can be. But Lord, you know what that is. So we submit our agendas and our plans to you. And Lord, we ask you to help us to teach our children what they need to know and how to express themselves, Lord. You're a God of words. You spoke things into being. Words are powerful. Help us to understand that the language aspect of math and of science and of history, all of the language aspects of everything, they originate in you. So help us not to ignore those, but to tap into them as the powerful resource that they really are. Lord, I ask you to just give every single mom who listens to this an incredible week. Help them win the day today. Just thank you for everything that you've blessed us with. In your precious name, amen.